Welcome to Wellness with John. I'm John Peters, and these are resources to help you thrive. So, in this video, I want to briefly address an issue in therapy due to the popularization of this term trauma focused, trauma centered therapy, because I think it's kind of doing a disservice to a lot of people. And so, I want to just explain my thoughts on this issue and so that you're an informed consumer and you get the kind of treatment that you actually want. So stay tuned. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to talk just a little bit about trauma-centered therapy and trauma-focused therapy, because if you go and you do a search for a therapist, you're going to read in therapist profiles and their bios that they do trauma-centered practice, trauma-focused practice. And what happened was a few years ago, this term got really popular. And a lot of therapists, of course, want to be perceived as being competent and helpful. A lot of people go to therapy because of often a valid notion that they were traumatized in some ways earlier in their life, and they want to get therapy in order to ameliorate the consequences of that trauma. So, this term trauma centered therapy and trauma focused therapy emerged. And if you Google it, you're going to see that different people define, okay, it means this, that, and the other thing. But here's the bad news: it's complete bullshit in terms of, as a consumer, if you look at a person's profile and they say, I do trauma focused therapy, and then you expect that that means a particular thing, it doesn't. And part of the reason it doesn't is that there's not consensus in like what the proper treatment exactly should be for trauma broadly, in terms of all types of trauma with lots of varied types of people. And so when a therapist has in their bio that they do trauma focused therapy, trauma centered therapy, it may mean something about their competency in dealing with trauma and the consequences of trauma. It may mean something about their commitment to working with clients in certain ways. But the reality is, no therapist is going to say, I'm not trauma focused, I'm not trauma centered. Because when we're talking about trauma in this way, this term broadly includes anybody who had a past experience that's problematic and is coming along with them in some problematic way or ways. And they think therapy might help with that, right? That includes about everyone, and that includes about all types of therapy. So, as currently defined, all therapy is trauma centered and trauma focused, whether the therapist is putting that term in their bio or not. And the fact that someone puts the term in their bio doesn't actually mean any particular thing. It's just like new and improved on an advertisement. Okay, it's new and improved, but what the heck does that mean on the practical level, right? So what I recommend to people is, don't get seduced into thinking that nice sounding phrase means a particular thing. But if you are someone who has trauma of any sort, and I'm not going to quibble with how you're defining what your trauma is, but if you have things in your past that are impacting your current life that you want to work with constructively to improve, what I recommend, instead of just looking for trauma focused therapy, find a therapist who seems competent and then ask them if they are competent in dealing with the particular issues that you want to address in therapy. Because even if you come to explore your trauma and learn new things about it, and then maybe in that process redefine your therapeutic goals, you certainly today, in this moment, you know yourself how your past experiences are affecting you. Because, like, why are you even motivated to go to trauma in the first place, right? So if you ask that question, people might say, oh, well, because I'm having panic attacks, or because I can't deal with certain types of situations, or because when I'm in a certain type of situation, it's really crazy triggering and I think it's disproportionate and my reactions aren't constructive and healthy. So usually you already know some of what is coming along with you from your past trauma. And what I recommend is that, to the extent that you're aware of how it's impacting you and the things that you want to change, if it improves, how would you know it improves, right? That's one way to get at that. Bring that to the therapist, right? So someone might come to me and say, John, I'm having panic attacks. Do you work with anxiety? Do you help people reduce panic attacks? Or I'm ruminating, or I'm perseverating, I'm obsessive, I'm worrying about these particular issues. Can you help with that kind of worry or rumination? Or I'm having trouble sleeping, or I'm having trouble dealing with situations involving X, Y, and Z. Do you help with that kind of thing? Right. So again, you don't have to be so specific that you constrain the possibilities of what the therapeutic goals can be negotiated as once you literally start working with a therapist. But it is helpful if you think, well, what is it I want out of therapy? And because I know some about that right now, I would be able to contact the therapist and say, can you help me with those parts? Right? Because all of us are trauma focused, all of us are trauma centered. So if you see that term and you think it somehow separates that therapist as something special, it doesn't, right? Now, I'm not poo pooing therapists like me who have worked deeply over decades with victims of trauma and have developed particular competencies with certain aspects of how people are affected by trauma and can heal from it, because there certainly are lots of us therapists who are particularly expert and competent in dealing with issues of trauma, right? But you don't get to those people by just doing a filtered search of therapists who have trauma focused therapy and trauma centered therapy in their profile. That's the bad news, right? The good news is lots of us can help. Lots of us can help you, and you can find a therapist who can competently help you with your issues. So just wanted to address that issue because I particularly hate bullshit in advertising in general. And I don't want the way that that term is seemingly functioning in the therapy world today to actually kind of work against your goals to get competent treatment for what you would like to get out of therapy, right? So if you like this kind of content, hit the like button below. Feel very free to subscribe. I always enjoy comments on my videos because it helps me learn the type of content that people want to see. And um, if you have a friend who might benefit from this video, feel free to share it with them as well. And I will see you in an upcoming video. Thanks for coming.